The name Tyler Siegel will unfortunately not mean much to you, but he is one of the most interesting men and has lived one of the saddest lives when it comes to the patriotic American dream. Now, there's a photo that circulated a few years ago. This is the photo right here of a lovely lady who is at her wedding in a beautiful wedding dress, and she's next to a very disfigured man. Extremely scary looking, spooky, straight out of Scooby-Doo. And this is her wedding, right? You look at her face and you wonder to yourself, is she happy? This photo went viral a few years ago, around about 2006 to 2007. The photo started making the rounds on the internet and people thought it was fake. Until it came out that this was not fake at all. This was a real man. A gentleman by the name of Tyler Siegel. Tyler Siegel was 21 when he went to the army and 22 when he was in Iraq, and he had an explosion from a suicide bomber erupt next to him and 6 other Marines. He suffered an insane amount of injuries. Let me read some of them to you. His left arm was amputated below the elbow. 3 fingers on his right hand were lost, and in place of the thumb, a big toe was transplanted. Fuck. Siegel became blind in one eye, and his ears, nose, and lips were burnt off. He also had shrapnel in his skull and a hole in the bone above the brow. For future use, part of Siegel's skull was implanted into the fatty tissues of the upper part of his body, and an artificial plate was placed in its stead. Siegel also lost his tear ducts. It was replaced by a prosthesis. And some parts of his face that were lost to recover, even after more than 30 surgeries. Now, why am I talking about this? Why is this a thing? Because I've not been more enthralled into a human being's life in a very long time. Tyler Siegel was a patriot's dream. A young man, much younger than myself, who went off into a distant land to fight for his country, to battle a war on behalf of the politically strong and the politically elite. And he suffered one of the most terrible injuries known to man. It's awful. Let me show you what he looked like before his accident. Now, he was, for all intents and purposes, a normal looking fella, right? This is him. This is him and his wife, Renee, before the accident. So before he went, she said, I'm going to wait for you, and I'll marry you when you come back. This was him. Handsome guy, right? Here's some more photos of him after the accident. There's him. I know it's a little bit pixelated, I do apologize. But there's him with some sort of babe. Here he is. Look at that. No mouth, no lips. Blind in one eye. Damn. Could you imagine going through something like this? And once again, here's the photo. Now, this photo just I can't get enough of it. It's insane. You know, this poor girl had obviously agreed to marry him, but a year later they got divorced. Now, their actual marriage was very heavily publicized in the United States media. In the state of Illinois, where they lived and where they got married, their anniversary date was declared a national holiday. And I just feel so bad for him. I feel so bad for him. It's just, it just talks to what war does to a society and what war does to the average person on the ground, right? The people at the top making these decisions, telling soldiers where to go, they don't get affected like this. This guy had his entire fucking face blown off, bro. You know what I mean? That's hardcore. Some serious shit. So, this is an individual who fought on behalf of his country thinking that he would be a hero, regardless of the outcome. He barely survives. So, what happened following this and this photo and the wedding is pretty sad. A year after they got married, Renee, his wife, left him. And she said that the reason she left him was because she was completely unable to accept his disfigurement. She felt that it was a completely new and different person. Also, she had an old flame, as they like to say, from when Tyler went off to fight, to the war, that she had just fallen back in love with. And that left Tyler alone. He tried to work, but he wasn't able to. He couldn't. He was disfigured. He had a fucking toe instead of a thumb. This dude was struggling. He had no arm. He was blind. He couldn't talk or kiss or make love. Now, the United States government had originally said that they would take care of him, right? He was promised a allowance of $4,000 per month. That would be enough for him to comfortably raise a family. His pensions, if you can call it that, his benefits, were cut from $4,000 to $2,700 per month. That's how much him and his injuries were worth to the United States government after everything that man had gone through. He had to take his story to Special Investigations Unit, some sort of TV show, in order for it to get enough traction so that he can get somebody on his side to just get his story out there. And then the United States government goes, okay, fine, geez, sorry. We'll pay you what you want. It's all good. And then he did. He got his $4,000 a month back. And over the next few years, he was completely alone. Completely alone. The fun of the fair of who he was as a person had died down. People started forgetting who he was. And by the end, he was just a disfigured guy that you'd see every now and then. And you'd think, oh my gosh, what happened to him? Which is heartbreaking. He died in 2012, December 26th. He died from a alcohol and heroin overdose. We can't really say heroin, but it was morphine. It was opiates. So, not heroin. It was morphine. So this poor gentleman had developed a very severe dependency on alcohol and opiates before he passed away. Could you imagine living that life? Giving up your life for your country, who looks at you and goes, ugh, just give him what we can. 2,700, can we get away with that? Eventually them succumbing to, oh, fine, $4,000 a month. Take it, Tyler. The spoils of war. Am I right? It's a heartbreaking story, but this photo genuinely does stick with me. Sort of like, you know, they say a picture is worth 1,000 words. This one is definitely one of those.